You may find that one or other of the instruments is too loud, in which case you can adjust its volume. For that setting, I was using a damper pedal, which is really the only way to play piano sounds. The pedal connects to the damper socket on the back panel. If you use a Korg pedal, it will work fine, but if you have another brand of pedal, you might find that it works so that the sustain is on when the pedal is released. In this case, simply press the global menu, select Controllers, and change the polarity of the damper pedal to plus. Now let's look at playing with a keyboard split. First of all, press the split keyboard mode button, then unmute the lower part and then select the sound that you want. I'm going to select a jazz bass sound. You can hear that the bass sound is too high pitched, so I'm going to lower its octave tuning. Just press and hold the shift button and touch either of the upper octave buttons. This shortcut procedure will take you directly to the tuning tab of the mixer tuning menu. Adjust the octave transpose knob for the lower track to -1. You can move the split point wherever you like on the keyboard. Just select the Split tab on the bottom of the home page and move the point with the tempo value dial. Or you can also just touch the graphic of the split and then press the key on the keyboard where you want that split to be. There are some special sound types such as drums and sound effects, but perhaps the most significant one recreates the vintage Tonewell organ sound, the digital drawbars. Just press the digital drawbars button and a graphic recreating a set of drawbars will appear. Just touch each drawbar in turn and you can adjust it with a tempo value dial. You can add percussion and alter its volume and decay rate. As well as adding attack noise, which is also known as key click. You can also change the character of the drawbars from mellow to hard, changing from a jazzy sound to a rock sound. The Tonewell organ is of course usually partnered by a rotary speaker, and you can hear that the sound I'm using already has the slow rotary effect. If I just push the joystick forward, you'll hear the rotary speaker speed up. The usual function of the joystick is pitch bend and modulation, so of course it's very logical that the modulation switch should control the rotary speaker speed. In the case of the digital drawbars, the rotary effect is created by digital signal processing. But there are also some sounds which have the rotary speaker sound included in the sample. Now obviously you need a method to switch between the slow and fast speeds, and with the sounds that have a letter V after their name, you can do this just by playing harder. These sounds are fun to play, but actually they really come into their own if you use them in song or style programming. If you want to alter the octave of the upper parts simply while you're playing, you can do this with the upper octave buttons. You can also transpose the entire instrument, even when a song or a style is playing, at the touch of a button. This is great if you're backing a singer and you need to shift to their key. Most of the things we've looked at so far take a little time to set up. Of course, as you get used to the PA800, you'll find you can do everything very quickly, but it would be great if you could store a complex setting of, say, layers and a split all in one button. Well, of course you can, and the feature is called performance memory. Let's store a drawbar setting with acoustic bass to the left of the keyboard split. When you're happy with your setting, go ahead and select the pull-down menu in the top right-hand corner and select Write Performance. Now there are lots of performance banks, just the same as there are sound banks. Let's go ahead and select it right here. And to save overwriting any of the factory set performances here, I'm going to save my performance in an empty memory in the user bank number 2. If I go to bank 11 through 20, let's go to user 2. Here's an empty location here. So I'll select that and press exit. Of course, there's nothing to stop you from overwriting the factory settings if you want to. We looked earlier at how to rename your creations or name your creations. I'm going to name my performance Jazz Organ 1. When you're done naming, press OK and press OK to store your performance. From now on, whenever you want to use that setup, just press the Performance Select button and you'll find your setting right where you stored it. The PA800 is a live performance instrument, so the performance memories are at the heart of its creativity. Actually, they'll store much more than what I've shown you, including which style you're using, the tempo, which effects are in use, settings for the voice processor, in fact, pretty much any live performance feature. If you find it easier, you can just press and hold the Shift button and press any of the performance memory buttons and the screen will jump to the Performance Write page. The performance memories contain factory settings from the outset, so it's a good idea to browse through them and find your favorites. Performance Select uses the same buttons as Sound Select, so the factory set performances are grouped in those same categories depending on their musical image. You can of course overwrite the factory settings, and there's no rule that you should keep to just those instruments categories, but it might just help you when you go ahead and find those settings in the future. Now in the next chapter we'll look at the style play mode, and there is an important button linking performances to styles called Style Change. Turning this button on will mean that the style stored in the performance is also recalled. If you just want to stay on the same style but still want to use the rest of the setup in a performance, just go ahead and turn Style Change to off. In this chapter we're going to look at the style play mode. A style is basically a backing band that follows the chords that you play. In the last chapter we looked at the 4 real-time tracks, and the volume sliders for those are still displayed at the bottom of the screen. Now a style has up to 8 tracks comprised of drums, percussion, bass and 5 accompaniment tracks. To display the volume sliders for the style tracks, simply press the Track Select button and the sliders at the bottom of the screen will change. Now not every style will have all 8 tracks playing something. Some musical styles of course only need 3 or 4 tracks, for example a jazz trio or a typical guitar rock band. Let's have a look at a style in action. First of all, I need to set up my keyboard mode and the chord scanning method. And the most typical setting is with a split keyboard and with the chord scanning set to the lower of the split. Now there may be some reasons why you might want to set your chord scanning to look on the upper side of the split, or of course across the entire keyboard by pressing both of these buttons. And we'll look at those later on in this chapter. Next, just choose a style in the same way that you selected a sound in the last chapter. I'm going to select standard 8-beat. I'll press Synchro Start and play a left-hand chord. Each style has 4 variations, adding variety to your performance. It's a good idea to change variation when you move from one section of the song to another, for example, from the verse into a chorus. When a band plays, there is usually some sort of introduction to the song, and of course an ending when it finishes. Also, the band often plays a fill when going from one section of the song to another. So let's look at how all these things work on the PA-800. Select an intro before you start playing, and of course make sure that Synchro Start is on. Intros and endings vary in length depending on the style of music, but with the PA-800 you'll always know when to play thanks to the measure countdown in the screen. As a general guide, fill 1 is soft to medium, fill 2 is medium to loud, and fill 3 is either a break or a loud fill. There are 3 intros and 3 endings for each style, and they differ slightly in concept. These are firm rules which are kept to through all of the PA-800 styles, so you'll always know what to expect. Intro 1 and ending 1 are always completely musical, including a chord progression and some melody parts. Listen to this example. Intro 2 and ending 2 give you a reasonably long build-up or finish, but work just like a normal variation, so you can play your own chord sequence. Listen to ending 2 by itself. Now listen as I play a chord sequence while ending 2 is running. Finally, intro 3 is simply a count-in, and ending 3 is very short, finishing almost immediately. There are several ways to start a style. For example, you can start a style by using tap tempo. With Synchro Start off, just tap in the tempo that you want for one measure, and the rhythm will start. You can easily mix between the real-time tracks and the style tracks with the balance slider. A virtual slider appears on the screen to show you the middle point between style tracks and real-time tracks. In song play mode, you'll find that this same balance slider works to balance between the song tracks and the real-time tracks. There's more about song play mode in Chapter 5. Each style select button actually allows you to access 2 different banks of styles, in an upper row and a lower row. You can switch between them using the select button. If you press this again, you can also select the favorites row where you can store styles that you've edited or load external styles.